The sheriff's email hit my inbox like a bomb. Notice of lien, property at 2487 Maple Drive. My hands trembled as I clicked open the attachment, coffee forgotten on my desk. A court-ordered lien against my house, for debts I never made. I'm Nicole, and I've spent the last decade being the good daughter. You know the type, the responsible one who gets straight A's, lands the tech job, and somehow becomes the family ATM. While my younger sister Paige floated through life on charm and second chances, I built everything I have brick by brick. You won't believe this, I said into my phone, pacing my office. My co-worker Harry's calm voice answered, What happened? Someone's taken out loans using my house as collateral, but I never signed anything. Are you sure? Harry asked. Check your documents. I already knew, the same way I knew who was behind this, the same people who'd been living in my house for the past 3 years, rent-free, treating it like their castle, while I paid every bill. My mother's voice echoed from childhood. Nicole, help your sister with her homework. Nicole, lend Paige your new dress. Nicole, your sister needs money for college. Always Nicole, always giving, always responsible. I drove home that evening, my grip tight on the steering wheel. The 2-story colonial I'd bought with my own money stood proud against the setting sun. My parents' cars sat in the driveway, the new SUV they needed that I helped pay for. Inside, Mum was cooking dinner. Nicole, you're home early, she said, not looking up from her phone. Dad sat in his usual spot watching TV. I placed the printed email on the kitchen counter. Can someone explain this? Mum glanced at it, her face unchanged. Oh, that? Your father handled the paperwork. We needed to help Paige with some expenses. You used my house as collateral without asking me. Dad finally looked over. We had your information from when you were younger. It's not a big deal. Paige will pay it back eventually. Eventually? My voice cracked. Like the student loans she never paid, or the credit cards you maxed out in my name. Don't be dramatic, Mum said, stirring something that smelled like garlic. Family helps family. You're doing so well in your career. It's your duty to help your sister. I laughed a hollow sound. My duty? I bought this house. I pay the mortgage, the utilities, the property tax, and now you're taking out loans against it. Speaking of Paige, Dad interrupted, she's moving in next week. That boyfriend of hers turned out to be trouble, and she needs a fresh start. The room spun. Moving in? Here? Of course here, Mum said brightly. Where else would she go? You have all this space, and a family should stick together. You'll need to clear out that office of yours. Paige needs her own room. And her bills? I asked, already knowing the answer. Dad's fist hit the table. You owe us. We raised you, put you through school. I had scholarships, I cut in. I worked 3 jobs. I paid my own way. That's enough. He stood up, towering over me like he used to when I was small. This is what family does. Your sister needs help and you're going to provide it. End of discussion. I felt something snap inside me, not breaking, but clicking into place. Quietly, I reached into my bag and pressed a button on the voice recorder I'd started carrying months ago. Sometimes the responsible one isn't just responsible. They're ready. You're right, I said, my voice steady. This is what family does, and I've got quite a collection of what our family does. Mum turned from the stove, something flickering in her eyes. Worry? Recognition? What's that supposed to mean? I picked up my bag, the recorder safely tucked away. It means I'm done being the family bank, and you might want to read the fine print on those loans you took out in my name. Fraud has such interesting legal consequences. Are you threatening us? Dad's voice rose. No, I said, heading for the door. I'm just finally being responsible. For myself. I walked out, leaving them stammering behind me. In my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed Harry's number. "Hey," I said when he answered. "Remember that lawyer you mentioned? I need their number." "You okay?" he asked. I watched the kitchen light through the window, where my parents were probably already calling Paige to warn her. "No," I said honestly, "but I will be." 3 days later, my phone buzzed with Mum's familiar guilt trip text. "Family dinner tonight. Don't disappoint us again." I knew what this meant, an ambush disguised as reconciliation. I spent the afternoon with Harry reviewing documents from the bank. "Look at these signatures," he said, pointing to loan papers from years ago. "They used your information when you turned 18. "Before I even had my first real job," I muttered. "They were planning this for years." "You should skip dinner," Harry suggested. "Nothing good comes from these setups." But I went anyway, recorder in my purse, wearing the armour of a woman who'd finally had enough. The house smelled like Mum's lasagna, her go-to manipulation meal. "There's my successful daughter," Dad called as I walked in. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Paige sat at the table, looking wounded and fragile in that practiced way of hers. "Nicole," she whimpered, "I can't believe you're being so difficult about this. I really need you right now." I took my seat silently. Mum brought out the lasagna, serving Paige first. Always Paige first. "We've been talking," Mum started, her voice honey-sweet, "and we think we've found a solution that works for everyone." "Everyone meaning Paige," I said. Dad's fork clattered against his plate. "Watch your tone, young lady." "I'm 32, Dad, not exactly a young lady anymore." "Well, you're acting like a child," Mum cut in. "Paige needs a fresh start. Aaron turned out to be terrible with money." I couldn't help but laugh. "Unlike Paige, who's fantastic with it, especially when it's my money." "That's not fair." Paige's eyes welled up with tears. "I'm trying my best." "Your best?" I pulled out my phone, opening my banking app. "Let's talk about your best. Last year alone, $6,000 for your car repairs, $4,000 for dental work, $3,000 for that business venture that never happened." "We're not here to discuss the past," Dad interrupted. "We're here to talk about moving forward. Paige moves in next week. You'll clear out your office, and we'll need you to cover her car payments until she finds a new job." "No?" The silence was deafening. "What did you say?" Dad's face reddened. I said no, not happening. In fact, I reached into my bag. "I have something for all of you." I pulled out 3 identical envelopes. "What's this?" Mum asked, not touching hers. "Eviction notices. You have 30 days to vacate my property." Paige burst into tears. Mum's face went white. Dad stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "You ungrateful little—" he started. I pressed play on my recorder, his voice from 3 days ago filling the room. "We used your information. Paige will pay it back eventually." "I have years of recordings," I said calmly. "Conversations about using my social security number, about hiding bills in my name, about the loans you took out when I was barely legal." "You recorded us," Mum whispered. "Your own family?" "Family?" I stood up slowly. Family doesn't commit fraud. Family doesn't steal identities. Family doesn't treat their daughter like an endless resource to be drained. "We gave you everything," Dad shouted. "You gave me trauma and trust issues. You gave Paige entitlement and irresponsibility, quite the inheritance." Paige was sobbing now, mascara running. "How could you do this to me?" "To you?" I turned to her. "I bought my first car at 16, working at a grocery store." "Where did you get your first car?" "Oh, right, I paid for it." "That's different," Mum protested. She needed boundaries." I slapped the table. "She needed parents, not enablers. And I needed a family, not parasites." Dad stepped toward me, finger pointed. "You owe us everything you have. We raised you." "You raised me to be responsible," I cut him off. "Congratulations. I'm being responsible 30 days. Get out of my house." I walked to the door. Their protests following me, Paige's wails, Mom's threats, Dad's anger. It all washed over me like old static. One more thing, I turned back. I've frozen all my accounts and credit. Try using my information again, and the next papers you get won't be just eviction notices. In my car, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding. My phone lit up with messages, all caps, guilt trips, threats. I blocked each number methodically. Harry texted, "How'd it go?" "They know now," I replied. "The war's about to start." "You okay?" I started my car, watching through the window as my family huddled together, probably already planning their next move. "No," I typed back, "but for the first time in years I'm being honest about it." The next morning, I met Harry at a coffee shop downtown, spreading documents across the table like battle plans. Bank statements, credit reports, loan applications, years of financial abuse laid bare in black and white. "Your parents were busy," Harry said, highlighting another fraudulent charge. "They used your information for a car loan in 2012, credit cards in 2015, and that home equity line last month." "I was such an idiot," I muttered, remembering my old landlord Esme's warning years ago. "Always read what you sign, honey. Family can hurt you worse than strangers." Harry's phone buzzed. "The bank's fraud department is ready for our call." For the next hour, we detailed every unauthorized transaction. The bank representative's typing echoed through the speakerphone. "Miss, these are serious allegations," she said, "especially against family members." "They stopped being family when they started being criminals," I replied. After the call, Harry looked at me carefully. "You know they won't go quietly, right?" "I know. That's why I need your help with something else." We drove to my house. My parents' cars were gone, probably at work and running errands with my gas money. Inside, I headed straight for the kitchen. "Look at this," I said, pulling open a drawer stuffed with mail. Every bill Paige ever dodged, redirected to my address. Harry whistled, sorting through the collection of overdue notices and collection letters. "She's been busy too." "Wait till you see upstairs." In my parents' room, I opened their filing cabinet. "Mum's always been organised about the wrong things." I pulled out folders labelled with my name, dating back to my 18th birthday. "Holy shit," Harry breathed, reading through loan applications. "They planned this for years. Look at these dates. They started taking out credit in your name the day you turned 18. And here's the best part." I reached to the back of the drawer, pulling out a familiar document. "Remember when Dad said they put me through college? Here's my scholarship letter. Full ride." "They took credit for paying for your education while stealing your identity." Harry's voice rose in disbelief. Classic Mom and Dad. I closed the drawer. Always taking credit for my success while undermining it. Back downstairs, I printed the eviction notice again. They'd torn down the first one and taped it to the fridge. This time, I added a note. "Security cameras have been installed. Destruction of legal notices will be documented." "You really thought this through," Harry said. "I had years to plan while paying their bills." I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Paige. "They think they can wait me out, wear me down with guilt like always. What about your sister? Think she'll try something?" As if on cue, my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "You'll regret this. Family is forever." Paige always did have a flair for drama, I said, showing Harry the message. "We should document everything," he suggested. "Every threat, every attempt at contact." I nodded, remembering another conversation with Esme years ago. I'd been crying about another loan my parents demanded, and she'd said, "Honey, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people face their own consequences." My phone buzzed again, an email from the bank confirming my credit freeze. Another buzz, a text from Felicity, the legal aid Harry recommended. "Documents received, proceeding with formal eviction process." You know what's funny? I said to Harry as we gathered the evidence. They always called me the responsible one, but they never thought I'd be responsible enough to stop them. What happens when the 30 days are up? They'll either leave on their own or the sheriff will make them leave. I closed my laptop, but knowing my family, they'll try everything before that happens. Harry helped me carry the documents to my car. You're doing the right thing, Nicole. They're the ones who should feel guilty, not you. I know. I looked up at the house. My house, bought with my money, filled with people who'd seen me as nothing but a resource to drain. I'm done feeling guilty for having boundaries. That evening, I sat in my office, soon to be not Paige's room, and opened a new document. At the top, I typed, "Inheritance isn't always money, a guide to financial family abuse." My phone lit up with another anonymous text. "You can't throw away blood." I typed back, "Watch me," and blocked the number. Opening my email, I found a message from Felicity. "All paperwork filed. Sheriff's office confirmed. The clock is ticking." I smiled, thinking of my family's faces when they realized their perfect plan had backfired. They'd taught me to be responsible after all. They just never expected me to be responsible for myself. The sound of car doors slamming jolted me awake at 6 a.m. Through my bedroom window, I watched Paige struggling with 5 massive suitcases while Mum directed her like a traffic cop. "Just bring them through the front door, sweetie," Mum called out. "Nicole's probably still sleeping." I wasn't. I stood at the top of the stairs, watching them barrel in like they owned the place. Paige looked up, startled to see me. "Oh, Nicole!" She attempted her usual sweet smile. "I thought I'd get settled in early. Beat the traffic." "Settled in where exactly?" "Your office, of course," Mum said, dragging a suitcase across my hardwood floors. "We discussed this at dinner." "No, you demanded it at dinner, right before I served you all eviction notices." Paige's smile faltered. "Oh, that silly thing. Mum said you were just having a moment." "A moment?" I descended the stairs slowly. "Like the moment you had when you maxed out 3 credit cards in my name." "That was years ago," Paige protested. "I was going through a rough patch. You're always going through a rough patch, Paige, and somehow I'm always the one paying for it." Mum stepped between us. "Nicole, stop being difficult. Your sister needs—" "Nothing from me," I cut her off. "You might want to unpack somewhere else, Paige. This house isn't an option." "But I already gave up my apartment." Paige's eyes welled up right on cue. "I have nowhere else to go." "That sounds like a you problem," Mum gasped. "Nicole, how dare you be so heartless to your own sister?" "Heartless?" I laughed. "Was it heartless when you forged my signature on loan documents? When you used my social security number without permission? When you—" "That's enough," Mum snapped. "We're your family. You don't turn your back on family." "Watch me." I pointed to the door. "Get out, now." Paige burst into tears, her trademark move. "You're horrible, after everything we've done for you." "Done for me? Name one thing you've done that didn't end with your hand in my wallet." Silence. That's what I thought. I walked to the front door, holding it open. "Take your bags and leave." They didn't move. Instead, Paige flopped dramatically onto my couch, crying harder. Mum rushed to comfort her, shooting me venomous looks. "Fine," I pulled out my phone. "I'll call the police and report trespassing." "You wouldn't dare," Mum hissed. I started dialing. "Try me." Something in my voice must have convinced them. 20 minutes later, I watched from my window as they loaded the suitcases back into their cars. Paige made a show of stumbling, weak from distress. Mum supported her like she was walking to her execution. Just as they were leaving, Paige stormed back to the front door. I opened it before she could knock. "You think you're so perfect," she spat. "So successful, but you're just a cold, selfish bitch who never learned what family means." "No, Paige, I learned exactly what family means to you." She reached past me, snatching the eviction notice from the wall and tearing it to shreds. "There! Good luck proving anything now." I pointed to the small camera in the corner of the hallway, its red light blinking. "Thanks for the evidence of tampering with legal documents. Want to try for more?" Her face went pale. As she stormed out, my phone buzzed with a text from a blocked number. "You'll regret choosing money over blood." I typed back, "I'm choosing self-respect over abuse," and blocked that number too. Later that evening, Mum showed up alone. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steel. "You're destroying this family," she said from my doorstep. "Is that what you want? To tear us all apart?" "No, Mom, I'm just giving back what you gave me. Years of manipulation, guilt, and theft. We're your parents. Everything we did was for your own good." "My own good?" I pulled out my phone, showing her the credit report. "Was it for my own good when you destroyed my credit score? When you used my identity for loans? When you—" "I'm sick," she interrupted, her voice suddenly weak. "The doctor says the stress could—" "Save the performance," I said. "I already called your doctor. Funny how they have no record of these mysterious stress-related illnesses." She dropped the act, her face hardening. "You'll regret this, Nicole. Mark my words." "No, Mom. The only thing I regret is not doing this sooner." As she drove away, I texted Harry, "Phase 1 complete. They're starting to realize I'm serious." His response came quickly. "You okay?" I looked around my quiet, peaceful house. Getting there, one boundary at a time. The private investigator's report landed in my inbox with a weight heavier than its digital format suggested. "You might want to sit down for this," Harry said over the phone. I scrolled through pages of evidence, dozens of accounts opened in my name, email addresses I'd never seen, loan applications with forged signatures. But what caught my eye was a familiar name. Aaron, Paige's ex-boyfriend. "Got his number," I told Harry. "I'm calling him." Aaron answered on the third ring. "Who's this?" "Nicole, Paige's sister." A long pause. "Oh, shit. Look, I can explain." "I'm not calling about money," I cut in. "I need information." He laughed bitterly. "About your sister?" Where do I start? The fake business loans? The credit card scams? Or maybe how she convinced me to co-sign for her car by saying her rich sister would cover everything? My stomach turned. Tell me everything. For the next hour, Aaron painted a picture of systematic fraud. Paige had used my information for years, telling everyone I'd promised to help. She'd even shown people emails, supposedly from me, guaranteeing I'd cover her debts. "I should have known it was too good to be true," Aaron said. "She always said, 'Nicole will pay,' like it was some magic spell." After hanging up, I called Felicity, my legal aid. "I need to lock down everything," I said. "Every account, every possibility." "Already on it," she replied. "But you should know, your mother filed a complaint claiming elder abuse, says you're forcing her out of her home while she's ill." I laughed. "Let me guess. No medical records to back it up?" "None, but they're getting desperate. Desperate people get creative." That afternoon, I had the locks changed and installed a new security system. The locksmith was just finishing when Dad's truck screeched into the driveway. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, storming up the walk. "New locks," I said calmly, "for my house." "Our house. We've lived here for 3 years." "As guests. Who committed fraud?" He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me like he used to. "I built you. Everything you are is because of me." "Really?" I pulled out my phone, playing a recording. His voice filled the air. "We used her information when she was 18. She'll never know." The locksmith looked between us uncomfortably. "You're recording everything?" Dad's face reddened. "Like we're criminals?" "If the fraud charge fits." "I'm warning you, Nicole. Back off now, or—" "Or what?" I stepped closer. "You'll forge more documents, open more fake accounts. I've frozen everything, reported all fraud. There's nothing left for you to steal. We're your parents. No, you're thieves who happened to raise me. He raised his hand, not to hit, but to point, but I didn't flinch. The locksmith stepped between us. Sir, he said firmly, I think you should leave. Dad's face contorted. This isn't over. Actually, it is. I held up my phone. Smile for the security camera. Every threat is documented now. After he left, my phone exploded with messages. Mum sent photos of me as a child, captioned with guilt trips. Paige texted from new numbers, alternating between threats and tearful pleas. I blocked each one methodically. That evening, I found a stack of mail hidden behind the microwave. More bills in my name. As I sorted through them, a memory surfaced. Paige at 16, watching me pay bills online. Must be nice, she'd said, being so good with money. It's not about being good with money, I'd replied. It's about being responsible. Well, that's what I have you for, right? She'd laughed. I hadn't realized then that she meant it literally. My phone buzzed, a text from Harry. You need to see this. He'd sent a link to a social media post. Paige's latest masterpiece. A tearful story about her cruel sister throwing their sick mother out of her home, complete with staged photos of Mum looking frail in a hospital waiting room. The comments were exactly what she wanted. How heartless! Family should come first. What kind of person does this to their own blood? I smiled, screenshot the post and sent it to Felicity. More evidence of harassment and defamation? Perfect, she replied. Their desperation is making our case stronger. I walked through my house, touching the walls, the new locks, the security cameras. They thought they were breaking me down, but each desperate attempt only reinforced my resolve. My phone buzzed again, a text from another unknown number. Blood is thicker than water. I typed back, so is fraud, and hit block. The breaking point came on a Sunday morning. I was in my kitchen when they arrived, all three of them, with Dad clutching a folder like it was made of gold. We're done playing games, he announced, slapping the folder on my counter. Here's our proof of ownership. I didn't even open it. Proof of what exactly? This house, Mum said triumphantly. We've contributed financially since day one. We have rights. I pulled out my laptop. Funny you should mention contributions. I opened a spreadsheet I'd been maintaining for years. Let's talk numbers. We don't need to see your little computer files, Dad sneered. We have real documents. Real, like the loans you forged in my name? I turned the laptop around. Here's every penny I've spent on this house. Down payment, my savings, mortgage payments, my salary, utilities, taxes, insurance, all me. Paige stepped forward, tears already flowing. But we're family. You can't just... Actually, I can, and I will. I pointed to their folder. Open it. Dad hesitated. Go ahead, I pressed. Show me this proof of ownership. He opened the folder slowly, spreading out papers, receipts for furniture they'd bought, utility bills they'd paid occasionally, a few grocery receipts. I laughed. That's it? That's your claim to my house? We helped furnish it, Mom protested. We've maintained it. With my money. Every time you helped, it was with funds you stole from me. We didn't steal anything. Dad's fist hit the counter. We invested in this family. Something snapped inside me. Years of suppressed anger burst forth. Invested? I shouted, making them jump. You raised Paige to expect endless bailouts. You taught her that my success was her safety net. You forged documents, stole my identity, and now you have the audacity to claim my house. Don't you dare speak to us that way. Mum stepped forward. After everything we've sacrificed. Sacrificed? What exactly did you sacrifice? My credit score, my financial security, my trust? Paige collapsed into a chair, sobbing dramatically. You're destroying our family. No, you destroyed this family. Every time you chose fraud over honesty, every time you picked theft over responsibility, every time you decided my money was your right. Dad raised the folder again. We'll sue. We'll take this to court. Perfect. I pulled out my phone. Let's call Felicity right now. I'm sure she'd love to present evidence of your fraud to a judge. You wouldn't dare, Mum whispered. Try me. I dialed Felicity's number, putting it on speaker. Hey, Felicity, my family's here with some interesting documents. Think we should add them to the fraud case? Absolutely, Felicity's voice rang clear. The more evidence of their financial abuse, the better. Dad snatched the folder back. This isn't over. Actually, I said, walking to my front door and opening it. It is. Get out. You can't just throw us out, Paige wailed. Where will I go? You should have thought about that before using my identity as your personal ATM. Mum tried one last time. The neighbours already think you're horrible. Throwing out your own family, your sick mother. Sick, I laughed. Should we call your doctor again, the one who has no record of these mysterious illnesses? They stood frozen, realising their usual tactics weren't working. Leave now, I said firmly, or I call the police, again. As they shuffled out, Dad turned back. You'll regret this eventually. When you're alone with your money, you'll see what really matters. I already regret not doing this sooner, I replied. And what really matters? It's not money, it's self-respect. Through my security camera, I watched them huddle in the driveway. Paige's sobs echoed dramatically. Mum played the frail victim, and Dad made angry phone calls. Minutes later, my phone lit up with messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years, all condemning my cruelty to my poor family. I blocked each number systematically. Then I saw it, a sheriff's car pulling up to my house. Mum's face lit up with vindictive triumph as she hurried to speak with the officer. But I wasn't worried. I opened my front door, holding up my folder of evidence, the real kind, with bank statements, fraud reports and police reports. The officer looked between us, then at my documents. Ma'am, he said to my mother, making false reports is a serious offence. As the officer explained this to my increasingly pale-faced family, I stood in my doorway, watching their last power play crumble. My phone buzzed. Harry, you okay? No, I replied honestly, but I'm free. Moving day arrived with the subtlety of a hurricane. I stood on my front porch at 8 a.m. sharp, watching the sheriff's car pull up alongside a moving truck. My family hadn't left voluntarily. Of course they hadn't. Morning, the sheriff nodded. They inside? Where else would they be? I sighed. They still think this is their house. Right on cue, Paige's voice carried through an open window. You can't do this! We have rights! The sheriff knocked firmly on the door. Mum opened it, already in full performance mode, dabbing at invisible tears with a tissue. Officer, she whimpered, my daughter is trying to make her sick mother homeless. Mum, we've been through this, he replied, unfazed. The property belongs to Nicole. You've been served proper notice. It's time. The movers waited patiently as my family made their final stand. Dad appeared behind Mum, puffing up his chest. This is illegal, he bellowed. We've lived here for years. Without a lease, I added, without paying rent, while committing fraud. Paige appeared next, mascara strategically smeared. How can you watch them throw us out? Your own family. The same way you watched yourself destroy my credit. One day at a time. The sheriff stepped forward. Folks, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice. Mum tried one last time, turning to the movers. Please, you can't help them do this. We're being persecuted. The head mover looked uncomfortable, but professional. Just doing our job, Ma'am. Where would you like your things taken? Nowhere, Dad shouted. We're not leaving. Actually, I stepped forward. Everything's going to their storage unit, already paid for 3 months. I handed the mover an address. I'm not heartless, just done. The next 2 hours were a symphony of chaos. Mum alternated between wailing and making frantic phone calls to relatives. Dad stormed around, claiming ownership of things that weren't his. Paige collapsed dramatically every time someone moved her belongings. "This lamp was a gift," Mum protested as movers carefully wrapped it. "From me," I reminded her, "like most things in this house." The neighbours started gathering, drawn by the spectacle. I could hear their whispers, see their phones recording. Mum played to the audience, making sure everyone heard her cries about her cruel daughter. "Did you know," I announced loudly, "that identity theft is a felony, even when it's family?" That shut her up temporarily. As the movers worked, I noticed Paige slipping upstairs. I followed her to my office, where she was hurriedly searching through drawers. "Looking for something?" I asked from the doorway. "More documents to forge, maybe?" She spun around, clutching papers to her chest. "These are mine." "Really? Because they look like loan applications with my forged signature." Her face crumpled. "You were supposed to take care of me. That's what big sisters do." "No, that's what enablers do. I'm done enabling." Back downstairs, the house was nearly empty. Mum sat on the front steps, playing the victim for her phone camera, probably for social media. Dad was arguing with the sheriff about property rights. "Sir," the sheriff said firmly, "continue this behaviour and you'll leave in my car instead of yours." Finally, after what felt like years, the house was clear. My family stood in the driveway, looking lost among their boxed-up lives. "This is your last chance," Mum said quietly. "Family should stick together." "We're not family," I replied. "We're just people who share DNA and a history of financial abuse." "You'll regret this," Dad growled. "Mark my words. Already marked, already documented, already reported to the police." Paige made one final scene, falling to her knees on the lawn. "How will I survive?" "The same way I did," I said, "by actually trying." As they finally drove away, Mum to my aunt's, Dad to a motel, Paige to whatever friend would take her, I noticed an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was a note in Paige's handwriting. "You'll always be the villain in this story. Hope your money keeps you warm at night." I walked through my empty house, truly mine now. The silence felt like freedom. My phone buzzed with messages from flying monkeys, distant relatives telling me how horrible I was. I blocked them all. Then I saw a text from Harry. "Need company?" "No," I replied. "For the first time in forever, I need to be alone in my own space." I sat on my stairs, feeling the weight of years lifting from my shoulders. My family thought this was the end of their story. They didn't realize it was just the beginning of mine. The sheriff's final words echoed in my mind. Sometimes the hardest part isn't standing up to others. It's standing up for yourself. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I finished typing the last paragraph of my blog post. My phone buzzed, Harry sending me a link to Paige's latest social media pity party. "Still playing victim?" he texted. "Always," I replied, clicking the link. Her post showed her in a cramped apartment, lamenting her cruel sister who destroyed our family over money. The comments weren't what she expected. Instead of sympathy, people asked questions. Why were you living in her house rent-free? Did you really commit identity theft? Sounds like you're the problem, not your sister. My doorbell rang. I checked the security camera to see Felicity holding a folder. "Good news," she said as I let her in. "The fraud investigation is complete. Your parents are facing charges unless they agree to repayment terms." "Let me guess. They're claiming innocence?" "Well, until we showed them the evidence." She smiled. "They're signing the agreement today." My phone rang. An unknown number. Usually I'd ignore it, but something made me answer. "Nicole?" A familiar voice. "It's Esme." My old landlord, the woman who'd first warned me about family taking advantage. "I saw your blog," she said. "The one about financial abuse. It's helping people, you know. My niece read it and finally stood up to her parasitic brother. After hanging up, I checked my blog's comments, hundreds of stories, all echoing mine, people finding courage, setting boundaries, breaking free. Your story gave me strength, one read. I finally told my mum no. I thought I was alone, said another. Thank you for showing me I'm not. Harry arrived with lunch, finding me deep in responses. Still feel guilty? He asked, setting down takeout containers. No, I said honestly. I feel peaceful. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mom. The lawyers made a sign. Happy now? I typed back. This was never about happiness. It was about consequences. They're living with Aunt Sarah, Harry said between bites. Heard she's not too thrilled about their fraud charges. Good. Let someone else deal with their drama for once. Another buzz. Paige, I'm starting therapy, not that you care. This time I responded, Good. That's the first responsible decision you've made. We finished lunch as a moving truck pulled up next door. My new neighbours, a young couple, excited for their first home. They waved as they passed my window. Normal neighbours, I mused. What a concept. Harry gathered the takeout containers. You never answered my question from last week. Was it worth it? I looked around my peaceful house. No more financial abuse. No more manipulation. No more guilt. They thought revenge would feel like violence, I said. But sometimes it feels like peace. My laptop pinged. Another blog comment. I've been supporting my adult son for decades. After reading your story, I finally said no. He was angry, but for the first time in years, I can breathe. I started typing a response when my doorbell rang again. The security camera showed Dad, alone, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. What do you want? I asked through the intercom. To return this. He held up a key, my spare house key they'd copied without permission. I opened the door, but didn't invite him in. He handed me the key without meeting my eyes. Your mother wanted me to tell you you're still wrong, he said. But, he paused, struggling, but maybe we were wrong too. Maybe. The fraud charges. He swallowed hard. They're real. We did that. To our own daughter. Finally, he looked at me. When did we become those people? You always were those people, Dad. I just stopped accepting it. He nodded slowly. Paige is in therapy. Says she's learning about something called financial codependency. Good for her. And us. He cleared his throat. We're selling the boat and the timeshare to pay you back. Actions, not words, Dad. He turned to leave, then stopped. We really thought we were entitled to your success. That's messed up, isn't it? Yes, I said simply. It is. After he left, I returned to my blog. The cursor blinked at me as I typed. People say blood is thicker than water, but self-respect is thicker than both. Sometimes the greatest act of love, for yourself and others, is saying no. Sometimes the hardest family lesson is learning that karma isn't what you serve, it's what you set free. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from Paige. I'm sorry, not for show, for real. I saved her number instead of blocking it. Not for reconciliation, not yet, but for possibility. Sometimes karma comes with consequences, and sometimes consequences come with change.